Ninjago has been around for over 13 years now, and with it has come a slew of amazing Ninjago minifigures. A lot of these minifigures go for very cheap, but some of them are extremely expensive. And in today's video, I'm going to buy some of the most rare and expensive Ninjago minifigures from throughout the years. But there's a spin. With every new expensive Ninjago minifigure I get, I have to build a diorama from the show out of my own bricks for it. But first, I need to buy these minifigures. I went on to Bricklink and searched long and hard for these Ninjago minifigures. Once I had them in my cart, I bought them. Pretty soon, I started getting package after package of expensive Ninjago minifigures. It was awesome opening them up, and now I have a massive pile of all the minifigures we need. So let's get into it with our first minifigure, Samukai. Ever since 2011, I desperately wanted this minifigure, and after building him up, this minifigure definitely doesn't disappoint. He's got a massive jaw that can open and close, 4 skeleton arms, and the headpiece with the spine running down the back just looks so amazing. The cheapest you can get this minifigure nowadays is $34, but you can also shell out $248 on this minifigure as well. Now it's time to build a scene from the pilot show, and we're going to rebuild the scene where Kai tries to take on Samukai at his blacksmith shop. I started by getting a 16 by 16 base plate, building a black rim around it. Then I had to work on the water tower. I built 4 wooden pillars going up, and then I used quite a few Technic pieces to make this unique technique where afterwards I was able to lay on sand green pieces around the barrel of this water tower. Finally, I added a small roof and placed it on top of those 4 wood pillars. In order to make the ground, I got a lot of light gray slopes and started making rock shapes and fitting them together. That gives this very unique cobblestone floor effect. Then I added a little area with grass on it and a couple flowers. Now it's time to build up Kai in his blacksmith shop costume with a sword, and Samukai with 4 daggers. Now that this diorama is complete, we can put it in the display, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. I really enjoyed building this small display, and Samukai I'm going to give a 10 out of 10. Fantastic minifigure overall, and I almost wish modern day Ninjago would make villains as cool as these. Now let's move on to our next shockingly amazing minifigure. NRGK is the most expensive minifigure from Season 2 and only came in one very rare spinner set. This minifigure can range from $75 to $287. But when you take a close look at this minifigure, it kind of makes sense why it's so expensive. They painted the detail on the body with a fluorescent blue color that shimmers in the light. This is a fantastic Jay minifigure, and the amount of cool lightning detail is awesome. In the show, Jay unlocks his true potential when he's riding on a coaster at Mega Monster Amusement Park and he has to save Nia. So we're going to recreate this scene here. I laid down some sand and started building the main yellow supports for this roller coaster. I actually used a green coaster piece I got from Ninjago City Markets. I attached it on. I got transparent orange clip joints to make that deadly ring of fire. On the ground I added some details and even put an ice cream cone that someone had dropped alongside this boy looking up in his astonishment as Jay saves Nia on this coaster car I built and placed Nia in. The last thing to do is place Jay on the front of the coaster car, and he's saving Nia from her impending doom. And I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. You honestly can't give the Mega Monster Amusement Park enough room on a 16 by 16. And for NRGJ, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. The detail is amazing, but it's only a 4-piece minifigure, and it costs a lot of money. Next up, we have General Kozu, the commander of the Stone Army. This minifigure first appears in Season 2 of Ninjago, and let me tell you, he is a sick-looking 4-armed samurai. The version of this minifigure I got was a bit nicked up, and you can definitely tell it had some playwear, but I was able to get it for $13. But if you want to get this minifigure brand new, it's going to cost you about $78. The detailing on this Stone Warrior is magnificent. The silver and the red are a great color combination, and they even went the extra mile and printed little black spikes coming off the helmet. In the final battle of Ninjago, Kozu and his stone army are surrounding the ninja, ready to attack. And I want to build this scene out of my own bricks. I started by laying down some rocks, then I had to figure out where I was going to situate all the minifigures, and I did this by laying down dark gray jumper plates to place the minifigures on. I built a little rock structure in one corner where Samukai was going to be standing so he could kind of stand out. Then I got Lloyd, Kai, Jay, Cole, and Zane all in their kimono suits. Then I set them in the middle and surrounded them by a bunch of stone warriors holding their swords out. This is a very suspenseful moment, and let's hope Dareth can find that ancient stone warrior helmet. I'm pretty happy with how this scene turned out, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. There's not much here except for the minifigures, and for Samukai himself, I'm going to give him a 8 out of 10. A very cool minifigure, but he was scratched up and did have loose arms. Now we've made it to one of my personal favorite seasons, Rebooted. And we have the golden armor this Overlord minifigure is wearing is printed on with a very shimmery gold and really makes him look like royalty. This villainous character is extremely detailed, and if you want to pick him up these days, he'll range anywhere from $37 to $198. In Rebooted, most of the season, his eyes are on a computer, but once he gets the golden weapons, he's able to make armor for himself, and the big reveal in the show is awesome when he's walking through these doors at Borg Tower. In order to make this scene, I laid down a bunch of transparent blue tiles and then spaced 4x4 tiles every half a brick to give the floor a futuristic vibe. Then I built up a back wall that says Borg Tower on the top and was able to add in some transparent purple detail. Then I quickly built 4 Ninjroids, placed them down the sides, and was finally able to place the Overlord on. The final product really captures this scene. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, but there are definitely some better ones we've got planned for the future. For the Overlord himself, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. This minifigure is honestly just so incredible. For Tournament of Elements, the most expensive minifigure from the wave of sets that came out with the theme is Karloff, the Elemental Master of Metal. This dude is very epic, especially when you give him his big metal mittens. The detailing on the body looks alright, but sadly there's no leg detailing. This minifigure will cost you anywhere from $20 to $46. And honestly, I'm not sure if he's worth $46. In the show, there's an iconic scene where Karloff and Kai duke it out over a jade blade in the courtyard of Chen's Island. For this one, I'm actually going to build the ground sideways using bricks. I laid down a purple carpet in the middle. Once I had laid that in place, I added some bamboo to the side and built up a back wall covering with dark tan tiles. I added an Anachondri symbol to the wall and 2 Anachondri flags. Now all we had to do was put the jade blade in the middle, place Kai on one side, and Karloff on the opposite side. Now they're ready to fight. This scene looks like I almost just grabbed it straight out of the show, and for that I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. For the Karloff minifigure, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10. He's definitely a cool minifigure, but probably not worth $40. For Possession's most expensive minifigure, we have none other than the villain himself, Moro controlling Lordy. And this minifigure is fantastic. Moro can range anywhere from $27 to $126. They give him a harness and a ninja hood that fit together so well and give Lloyd a really creepy presence. Alongside that, he has great detail and prints all over him. There's so many scenes we could recreate from Possession, but I finally landed on the scene from City of Styx where Kai is chasing him out on a dock and where Moro uses air jutsu for the first time. In order to recreate this scene, I laid down a lot of murky colored bricks and then took it to the sink and poured water all over it. Then I built 3 different sizes of wood pillars, placed them on the water, and designed a small dock in one corner with a green lantern. I built some strangleweed coming up, ready to pull Kai down into his worst nightmare, swimming in water. Finally, I gave Evil Lloyd the scroll of air jutsu and placed him on his pillar, and this scene was complete. I'm going to give this scene an 8 out of 10. I just really hope Kai doesn't get pulled underwater. And in the case of this Moro minifigure, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10. There are only going to be a couple minifigures here that are a 10 out of 10, but Moro is very close. The most expensive minifigure in Season 6 Skybound is the Deceptive Genie, Nauticon. For a 4-armed Ninjago villain, this one takes a cake. And is also probably one of the tallest Ninjago villains. The amazing red and orange ghost tail moves up into a 4-armed section where the top 2 arms have this dark green armor covering. This minifigure is an amazing representation if you got a genie and a pirate and combine them. And the scene I'm going to build for this minifigure is from the episode My Dinner with Nauticon. We have Jay walking into this magnificent meal, and Nauticon is going to try to convince Jay to give him his last wish. I used dark tan for the floor and dark brown for one of the walls and burnt orange for another one of the walls. I decorated the walls with a map, a pirate skeleton, a clock, and a dresser. Then I finished it off by making a table full of delicious looking food. Then I placed down Jay and Nauticon, and the scene was complete. Now Jay can feast to his heart's content. I'm going to give this diorama scene a 9 out of 10. I'm very happy with how it turned out. And for the minifigure Nauticon, I'm going to give him a 10 out of 10. S tier minifigure right here. The most expensive minifigure for Day of the Departed was Bleached Pythor in his cloak. This is an extremely rare minifigure that only came in the biggest set from this wave, the Samurai X cape. The minifigure himself has pretty simple detailing since it's just a white cloak, but the blue medallion on his chest shimmers way more than the Tournament Element version. You can purchase this Pythor minifigure for $39, or if you want to get him brand new in pristine condition, it's going to be about $130. Now, Day of the Departed definitely isn't my favorite piece of Ninjago media. Hey! And the fight between Pythor, Lloyd, and Misako is pretty boring. So I want to make a more interesting scene from Rebooted. This is where he captures Lloyd and reveals that he is in fact Pythor. But it looks more like a dress instead of the snake tail. So I'm going to get the Doctor from this Harry Potter set and use that dress piece instead. Now in this scene they're by a cliff jutting out from Hiroshi's labyrinth. I started by pouring down some water and got a lot of dark gray slopes out and built up a cliff. I got some dark green slopes coming down the cliff to make it look more organic. Then I built a backdrop of trees, added some flower plants to the floor of the jungle, and then got Lloyd and wrapped some of these red whips around him to make it look like that mechanical snake thing crawling up him. Finally, I placed Pythor down and this display is 100% complete, and I'm going to have to give it a 9 out of 10. Pythor himself is a fantastic minifigure, but I'm going to give him a 7 out of 10. He doesn't have a lot of unique detail. The next theme we have is Hands of Time. One of the Hands of Time is the most expensive minifigure, and it is a Chronix. This minifigure came with his twin brother in the Dawn of Iron Doom set. Talk about a detailed minifigure. And he even has an MP3 player with earbuds. Even his ninja cowl has amazing clockwork detail on it. This minifigure can range anywhere from $45 at the cheapest to $398. That is almost $400. The diorama we're going to build for a Chronix, and this is the very first episode when he falls from the time portal to fight Sensei Wu. My first thought when I saw the floor of this monastery was that I could use nougat hump pieces, which I had an excessive amount of for my Cloud Kingdom mock. This is by far the most tedious Lego build I've ever had to design. This time-lapse video makes it look easy, but once I was done, believe me, my hands were soaking wet with sweat. Once I was done with that, the rest of the build was pretty easy. I put a plant in the middle with a green forward time blade and got a bunch of brown pieces to build a burnt down monastery for the backdrop. Then I placed Wu and a Chronix down, and this timeless scene from Ninjago was complete. The floor, though it took long, really paid off, and I'm going to give this mock a 9 out of 10. For Chronix himself, I'm going to give a 9 out of 10. This minifigure is so incredibly detailed, I could not put him any lower. The next entry into the Ninjago franchise was the Lego Ninjago movie itself. Personally, I really like the movie, and the most expensive minifigure from this series is Lady Iron Dragon, but she's really not that expensive. Today you can pick her up anywhere from $10 to $33, which isn't bad compared to the $400 price tag we had on the Chronix. This minifigure is pretty well designed and even comes with a uniquely printed quiver. The part where it gets really bad is the face print, which did not print well onto the headpiece behind it. The hair is also really cool. And for this scene, we're going to recreate the first time Lady Iron Dragon and Garmadon meet. They're fighting this big battle on this lava plane. I started by laying down some lava and putting studs inside of it so you can shake the lava around. Then I grabbed loads of dark pan pieces and started building up some terrain, where I placed a skeleton, a snake dude, Garmadon, and finally, Lady Iron Dragon. I also added some skeleton body parts strewn around. You can really see the sparks flying in this scene. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It definitely could have been better if I had more scenes from the movie to pick from. And for the minifigure, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I really don't like the head printing. This next season is a fan favorite, Sons of Garmadon. And the most expensive minifigure is, of course, you guessed it, Kilo, the big fig from this series. And now seeing Kilo in person, I can say he's definitely one of my favorite big figs I have. The amount of detail they were able to give this big fig is pretty impressive. He's got the 3 Oni masks tattooed to his arm, and he's got a leather jacket with a lot of really cool symbols and lettering over it. He looks pretty goofy with his tiny head, but when you put the Oni mask on him, he looks even more ferocious. This Kilo big fig ranges from $80 to $251. We're gonna build the scene from the show where you first get introduced to Kilo in the Sons of Garmadon base. I started by building up the floor of the sewer. I wanted to give it enough room so you could stick these little lights in I found on Amazon, and now the vent lights up and gives a more atmospheric feel. I built up 2 walls, one of which I used a cool technique where I built brick pieces and then placed tiles on top of it, so they're both different layers. And since it was a sewer, I covered the top and placed a road down with a lampstand and a fire hydrant, and added in 3 more lights to the top. Down beneath, I added some details to make it more sewer-like. I got a couple Sons of Garmadons and Snake Jaguar, and then finally placed down Kilo. This diorama is really amazing. I'm going to give this diorama an 8 out of 10, and I love how much these lights add to it, and Kilo definitely deserves a 10 out of 10. This big fig is really something unique. Hunted was an amazing theme of Ninjago that took the 4-core ninja and Master Root to a totally new and dangerous realm. The most expensive minifigure from this series is Dragon Armor Woo. This is an incredible minifigure, and the Dragon Armor chestplate is extremely detailed. I love the dragon head as a shoulder pad. They also really nailed the detailing with this minifigure. Today, you can buy this minifigure anywhere from $23 to $88. And the scene we're going to make for him is from the final episode, when Lloyd and Wu go to the top of destroyed Borg Tower to take on Garmadon and save Ninjago. I started by placing in some Technic brackets so that the main base where I'm going to have my character standing is tipped a little bit. Then I started building up around that unique shape that the top of Borg Tower has. The main color palette I used here was dark gray. I added a lot of light gray pipes and greebling around the place. I used these long light gray poles so that the rebar was exposed. Then built Hunted, Lloyd, and Garmadon. Finally, I placed these 3 minifigures on the platform and they were ready to fight. I think this broken Borg Tower diorama looks very accurate to this show, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It's definitely one of the biggest dioramas I made for this series so far. And I'm going to give Dragon Armor Woo an 8 out of 10. The detailing is spot on. Next up, we have a mini-season called March of the Oni, and this introduced the Oni. The only set you could get was a character pack, and the most expensive minifigure was the Omega minifigure. This villain ranges anywhere from $50 to $90. This is definitely a vicious looking villain using the Oni mask piece reprinted in black with amazing head printing. The standout for this minifigure is the massive horns he has coming out of his helmet. And we're going to rebuild one of the creepiest scenes from all of Ninjago, and this is where Lloyd and Garmadon go down into the basement of Borg Tower to try to find the golden armor to stop the Oni. I built the floor using dark gray plates and added some transparent red detailing to the floor too. In the middle, we have a pedestal with a realm crystal on it. I built 2 walls to enclose this room, and in each wall I added these big industrial looking doors. To finish the room up, I got some cloths in a couple different shapes to make it look like that black smoke that is infusing the room. I also got some string and wrapped it around the pedestal. I even used black whips as detail. Next, I placed down Lloyd and Garmadon, and finally the Omega, which I gave a custom staff to. This scene looks just about as scary as a scene from the show, and it definitely gives me creepy vibes. Again, I'm going to have to give this diorama a 9 out of 10, and the Omega I'm going to give an 8 out of 10. Forbidden Midgets was a unique dual chapter season with the Fire chapter and Ice chapter, but our most expensive minifigure comes from the Ice chapter, and this minifigure is Akita. And while I was doing research for this video trying to figure out the best prices for these minifigures, I found Akita on Bricklink for $65, but I also found the massive set that she comes in, the Ice Emperor Castle, for $200. I gave it and just bought the whole entire Ice Emperor's Castle. A few days later, it arrived in the mail. Coincidentally, it was snowing that day. Sadly, I didn't build it in the snow, but I did build it in record time very, very fast. Now that this Ice Emperor's Castle is done, all we really need from it is Akita. This Akita minifigure ranges anywhere from $65 to $182. That hair and hat piece is very unique with a fox design on it, and even the cape represents the tail of that wolf that she can transform into. The detailing on the body is surprisingly very well done. The diorama we're going to build for this set is from one of the last episodes, and it is none other than the Ice Emperor's throne. I actually grabbed a bunch of pieces from the Ice Emperor Castle I could use for this mock. I started by laying down a dark blue floor with a stairway going up to the throne, tiling it off with transparent blue tiles. After that, it was time to make that exploding ice effect all around it. I used quite a few different ice pieces to create this gorgeous look.
Wow.
I built the throne itself, added a dark red carpet, and 2 facade-like pillars along the back with flags sticking out either side. Next, I placed down the awesome Ice Emperor and finally put Akita at the bottom of the stairs ready to run up and fight him. This diorama turned out way better than I could have even expected. This honestly might be one of my favorite dioramas, and I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. And for this Akita minifigure, I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. Very cool, very detailed. Crown Empire was one of the wildest themes of Ninjago that they've done, and the most expensive minifigure from this series is actually Pink Zane. This Pink Zane came in the Gamers Market set, and honestly, it's not that expensive. You can buy this Pink Zane anywhere from $8 to $38. I went down to the laundry machine and got the Pink Zane suit out. And I really love how it represents the original Zane suit, just colored pink. It doesn't have a lot of detail, but it doesn't need a lot of detail. We're going to go all the way back to season 1 with the episode Can of Worms. We're going to rebuild the scene where Zane is running away from the snakes under Ninjago City in a subway station. I'm going to start the build out with a subway track. I start with these long dark gray groove pieces and put those down. Then I added a bunch of 1x1 light gray clips and finally got what is usually used as a ladder and put it down as a track piece in between the clips. Then I started building a little bit of a wall up with light gray definition pieces. For the floor I used teal and built 2 pillars using sand green bricks. I added a dumpster for extra detail, and now all we have to do is go onto my computer and remake this pink poster with a rock star on it. I printed it out, cut it out, and slid it into place. The final touch is to add Pink Zane. Now the subway station is complete and we can put Zane near the poster and he totally blends in. I'm going to give this display an 8 out of 10. I absolutely love that legendary poster I was able to make. And this Pink Zane minifigure deserves a 10 out of 10. Zane is my favorite ninja, and making him pink just elevates him to the next level. Coming in next, we have Master of the Mountain, where they go deep inside of a mountain and have to fight the Skull Sorcerer. And the most expensive minifigure from this series is Princess Vanya. She only comes in the Skull Sorcerer dungeon, which is the biggest set from the wave. You can get her anywhere from $7 to $29. Princess Vanya is a very strange minifigure. The detailing is pretty good, and I like the white and blue color scheme. But the head has always looked a bit strange to me. The scene we're going to recreate with Princess Vanya is the one where Sensei Wu, Cool, and Princess Vanya are all falling down the bottomless pit. I made a dark gray floor with a big circular chunk taken out of it, added some spiderweb to the bottom, and then started building up with dark gray rock pieces. I built up pretty high and was able to place some minifigures on falling. For Sensei Wu, I put his cape straight back to make it look like he was falling very fast, and even got his hat and put that on a separate transparent pole. Honestly, I don't know how Sensei Wu never loses his hat. This build makes the characters look like they're falling very fast, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. It may just be a rock tunnel, but it does the job. Princess Vanya is going to get a 5 out of 10, and we're definitely going to see some cooler minifigures here in the future. Our next minifigure comes from a miniseries called The Island. This wave only came out with 4 Lego sets, and the most expensive minifigure from these is the King of the Keepers. This minifigure has extraordinarily good detail and comes with a very unique burnt orange cape. But by far my favorite part of this minifigure is this massive dual molded gold and teal helmet that he wears. This helmet really caps this minifigure off and looks majestic. You can buy this minifigure pretty cheap, anywhere from $5 to $39. The scene we're going to be building for this minifigure is the temple where they keep the storm amulet. I started building up with dark gray. I built 2 stairways going up to the main platform. On the back wall I added a turntable with the storm amulet. I built a wall of dark tan and sprinkled in some nougat brick pieces for detail, and then built some sort of creature looking head coming out from the top. For the eyes I used half of these egg pieces from Galaxy Squad. I also strengthened the whole structure by putting these plates along the back. For the final touches I added a throne, 2 torches, and 2 trees. Then I added 2 keepers and finally placed the king in the middle, guarding the storm amulet. And I think it's the biggest display we have. It turned out better than I was hoping, and I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. King of the Keepers of the Amulet, a 9 out of 10 as well, and the detailing is beyond perfect. Now it's time for the season where Nia gets a spotlight, Seabound. And of course, the most expensive minifigure from the season is Nia. And surprisingly, it's not NRG Nia, it's actually Scuba Nia, which only came in 1 set, and that was the Seabounty, which goes for $130. You can pick up this Nia minifigure anywhere from $9 to $23. The ninja scuba suits were very unique, but never quite my favorite. They had this interesting belt and mask design. Nia's suit is definitely one of my favorite scuba suits from the season, and I like the yellow highlight highlights they added. The scene we're going to create for Nia is on the island when she goes to call the whales so that they can pull the broken down sea bounty back to Ninjago City. I laid down a lot of transparent fluorescent bricks and covered them with these 1x2 transparent tiles. Then I built 2 sharp rocks jutting out of the water, and on the island the sand is a very light blue color, so I used these medical blue bricks to create this sand. And then built quite a few palm trees to give a jungle backdrop. And then I slid the beach and the trees into the rest of the mod, added some bubbles, and then placed Nia in the water. This display is pretty simple, but sometimes simple works best, and I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I'm going to give the Scuba Nia minifigure a 7 out of 10. Definitely not my favorite minifigure, and the next minifigure I like much more. This next wave of LEGO sets wasn't actually a season. It was a wave of Ninjago called Ninjago Core. The most expensive minifigure is Pixel, and this one actually came with their hair in silver. This minifigure goes anywhere from $10 to $27. The insane detailing for this minifigure is phenomenal. Pixel's face is done very well, and I love the hairpiece. Now I'm going to pick a scene I've been itching to build for a long time, and this is from Prime Empire when you have Detective Zane and Pixel trying to find clues of Unagami. And the greatest thing about this episode is that a lot of it is colored in black and white. So in order to create that look, everything in this build has to be dark gray or light gray. I laid down a road and started working on a small diner. I even put a table inside. I used light and dark gray slopes to make a bit of an awning. I moved to the second floor, which has a lot of windows, and I used up all my dark gray and light gray brick pieces. I added a dark gray side, I added dark gray stairs, I added a dark gray door, and finally on the roof I placed Detective Zane with his magnifying glass and Pixel. This build turned out phenomenally well. I had so much fun building this grayscale building. I think this build deserves a 10 out of 10. And in terms of the Pixel minifigure, I'm going to give her a 9 out of 10. This was a greatly needed minifigure, and they took it to the next level with the design. The next season came in with a smash, and this was Crystallized, one of the most epic seasons in Ninjago, bringing back old villains, great heroes, and the most expensive minifigure from this season came in the biggest set from this wave, and that is Oni Form Lloyd. This minifigure has subtle highlights of green that coincides so well with the shimmery gold. The Oni mask design is amazing, and if you want to pick up this minifigure, the cheapest you can get him is about $51. If you want to get him brand new and mint condition, it's going to be $154. This minifigure looks awesome, he's just not very show accurate. In the show he has pink eyes, and he also comes with an extra pair of arms. Well, in the Crystallized show, Oni Lloyd appears for about 30 seconds of runtime. We're going to build the scene where he appears. I started by building a light gray base, put down a 1x2 slope and a 1x2 inverted slope, and it makes this little detail that looks like a crack in the ground. I also added a room in the middle so I could go over this black oval I had, and then place down dark gray quarter circles around it. I built up an archway gate, and was finally able to find a use for these dumb-looking fire swords. Then I placed crystals down, jutting up from the ground, and finally a massive crystal in the middle, using these giant pink crystal shard pieces. And since we don't have room for the massive Overlord, I just got the minifigure of the Overlord, and on the other side of the crystal, we've got Oni Lloyd. This scene captures the intensity of the final battle, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And I'm gonna have to give Lloyd a 7 out of 10. I love the design and the detail. The only problem is this minifigure is definitely not show accurate. We have finally made it to very recent Ninjago, and this is Ninjago Dragons Rising. And the most expensive minifigure from this wave of awesome LEGO sets is Empress Beatrix, the Empress of Imperium. You can buy Empress Beatrix anywhere from $10 to $37. I don't know how LEGO does it, but they keep coming up with amazing designs for villains, and this one is no different. And the shoulder harness is sick. And since my brother got the Lightning Elemental Dragon set that comes with Empress Beatrix's awesome mech, I asked him to build this final battle for me. The ninjas are all jumping around, ready to attack this mech, and my brother actually brick built this Dragon Core gun that shoots vortexes. He also added a street with a lot of rubble around it and one of the conveyor belts going through the city. This mech is so cool, and the environment my brother built around it is amazing. I'm going to have to give this diorama a 9 out of 10. And for Empress Beatrix, I'm going to give her an 8 out of 10. Amazing design. And there we have it, guys. 21 of the most expensive Ninjago minifigures. This video series took so long to make, but I had fun doing it every second of the way. And I cannot wait to see you in my next video. Peace